What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and of course, we typically feature a beer of the week. Today's episode is a special one, man. It's Earth Day. We love our planet. We're going to be talking about all sorts of villains, heroes, movies that kind of have to do with planet Earth and this place we get to call home. So first things first, I am Matt. With me, as always, is Lauren. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. Drop a review to help the podcast grow. And then you can find us, Hops Geek News, on any podcasting platform, any social media platform. And then if you feel so inclined, patreon.com/HopsGeekNews. Everything comes back into the show. We put on a live Cantina hour each and every week where we just kind of bullshit and hang out, have a good time. And then, of course, we're going to be starting a Patreon exclusive Sauced Ones where we're going to watch movies and decide how many beers does it take to make this movie actually watchable. So stay tuned for that. That's something we got in the works. Star Wars month is coming up soon as well. Lots of really good things going on. Today, though, however, I am drinking coffee from Black Rifle Coffee Company. Really good coffee, man. They, I know they're kind of a divisive company and sometimes, but I've looked into them and, they're really good coffee. They wake me up. I do switch between this and Starbucks and then, of course, my wonderful Dunkin' Donuts. And then that's what I got, man. It's the morning time, Earth Day, all that good stuff. Lauren, what do you got going on over there?
I also have coffee. I need to get some sort of like craft coffee for when we record. I know I've had some in the past, but I'm just drinking Starbucks. But I do have it in my Animal Kingdom mug, which Animal Kingdom actually opened on Earth Day in 1998. Granted, they are still Disney, so I'm not going to be like, they're the world's best company. They do nothing but good. But Animal Kingdom does do a lot of good. They have the Disney Conservation Fund, which, a lot of times they're just asking us to donate to it, but you get a cool little button. But they do a lot of stuff otherwise as well, and they donate to these nonprofits. And if you've never been to Animal Kingdom and you hate, like, I personally do not like going to zoos. I don't like going to SeaWorld.
You're
and
an
seeing
animal person. Okay. SeaWorld's one thing, but zoos, man, I love the zoo. I feel like that's a way for us to preserve some of these endangered species.
Well, now that's what I think that Disney does well, is that I don't feel like I'm looking at animals in cages, because how they have it set up, the animals have a lot of free reign. The animals can choose not to go out there if they like. Like if you go on the Kilimanjaro safari ride, I mean, you're going through, like, my husband was impressed when we went right after we had actually gone on a safari in Africa. And so he was like, wow, they actually did a really good job. So you don't like, these animals don't look depressed. Whereas I remember the polar bear at SeaWorld just in this tiny enclosure, just walking back and forth.
SeaWorld sucks. Fuck SeaWorld. Always and forever.
SeaWorld also does a lot of good, but for some reason they continue to market the not good that they do. SeaWorld is the one that rescued Winter. And then they, Clearwater Aquarium took them. SeaWorld has a program with sea turtles where they're regularly releasing them back into the wild. SeaWorld has a rehabilitation program for manatees. They do good, but when the times that
I've only ever realized, like, they're small orca enclosures. That's all I think about.
Right. And they have stopped, I guess, getting new ones and breeding new ones, but like, I feel uncomfortable going to those shows and watching the animals perform. So I feel like Animal Kingdom's really good about that. I think SeaWorld is getting better about that. There are 2 dolphins at Epcot that I was like, I feel like they shouldn't be in here. Dolphins are very social. I actually signed a petition to get them out of there. And then I found out that they were retired military bomb dolphins.
What? Oh,
and
I've
I was
heard
like,
about this. Like Navy SEALs or whatever used to use dolphins to help them detect like bombs, or they used to use dolphins in like the mines, like World War II maybe, or something like that. I could be making this up completely. But I do specifically remember a story about like dolphins being used to detect like mines in water and things like that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember who told me that. I don't remember if it was a cast member, if it was somebody else. But when I heard that, I was like, oh, well, I don't know what you do with those dolphins when they retire. Guess you send them to Epcot. I don't know.
They go to Epcot, I guess. I don't know.
But I know you skipped Animal Kingdom when you came, but don't sleep on Animal Kingdom.
Before. I've done the safari. I thought the safari was awesome.
Yeah, the safari is awesome.
It's a great, like, kids, like, how you don't like Magic Kingdom overly. It's not that you don't like
shit show.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I like Animal Kingdom. I just feel like when we go, because we don't go so regularly, it's okay. We got to cut our losses somewhere. But I think now, like, if next time we go with kids, we'd probably go to Animal Kingdom over Epcot, because Epcot's not so much. I don't know, man, because I like Epcot too, because they got the. I don't know.
It's easy for me to judge. It's very easy for me to judge. Obviously, like, we go to Magic Kingdom maybe once a year. We go to Animal Kingdom maybe 4 times a year. And then we go to Epcot probably at least
once a week.
In Hollywood Studios, like 10 times a year.
Every other day.
Yeah. So I get it. But we used to never go to Hollywood Studios because they didn't have much. We used to go a few times a year and that was it. Now that well, now I could just hang out in Star Wars. And the thing too with Animal Kingdom, is, like I could just get a beer and just sit and enjoy the view anywhere in that park. It's
That's
just
true. That's how I feel about Epcot too. Is like when we were walking around, I was like, man, I can just. You're like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't care. I'm just enjoying. Like, grab a beer. Like, we got to do our rides that we want to do, and
yeah.
Figment, of course. But we just chill. But yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't. Yeah, SeaWorld, I didn't realize they did good because like the only thing you ever see is bad.
Yeah,
So,
but I think they're also getting better. And I think a lot of that was social pressure.
well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
that
I
that
don't know
whole
why they don't like market like, hey, we're doing a sea turtle release. You can come out to the beach and watch. They don't.
hire me for your marketing, SeaWorld. Do that because I will turn your whole PR image around.
Well, and when we were there one day years ago, we did a year pass and I was going back and forth about it. A friend of mine was doing it and I was like, well, the kids haven't been, maybe we should. And I looked into it and I was like, okay, I feel better about going now than in the past. And then my mom's like talking and my mom, like, she's like, I'm not even going to post that we went here because I don't want my friends judging me. And we started talking to a cast member there and she's like, oh, you guys are really into the ocean. And she gave us a behind the scenes above tour of the giant
What?
aquarium with all the sharks. And we saw like the sign from Jaws 3 that like Dennis Quaid's leaning against. I regret not getting a picture of me leaning against it. But it was really cool. And she was talking to us about the animals and what they do. And you realize like a lot of the people that work there do
Care
love
about the
animals.
animals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting because like SeaWorld owns Busch Gardens, and I have a membership to Busch Gardens, but you don't really think about that. And they have like a wolf conservation at the Busch Gardens by my house.
Yeah.
Like this one's European themed, of course. So in the Scotland area, they have like a wolf conservation and sheep and things like that, which I
Oh,
didn't realize Busch Gardens was owned by SeaWorld at the time. So yeah,
yeah. That's why you used to be able to get free Budweiser at both. I remember waiting in the
yeah.
line with my dad.
That's true. That's true. They do advertise the Bud Light Weiser, but anyways,
They have a great
enough.
craft beer bar too. Yeah.
They do have a really good craft beer section at Busch Gardens. They partner with a lot of the local breweries like Virginia Beer
Yeah.
Company. Yeah.
So does SeaWorld. Yeah. I've had some of the local beers for the first time at SeaWorld when we had, and they actually let you use a reusable cup.
Yeah.
Disney,
Yeah.
I'm talking to you. And like they're like, you get a discount, or I think you get more bang for your buck if you bring the cup back. And that's environmentally friendly.
I
All right.
see.
Get off
This
our high
episode is all
horse.
about Earth Day. So yes, we were tangenting on about SeaWorld and stuff, but that all plays into Earth Day, man. Earth is our one thing. And we like to typically go into what we've been reading or watching, what we've messed up on recently, what some news that has been going around is, and then of course, our main topic. So let's roll into what we've been reading or watching. I kind of kicked off this week with the Kill Your Darlings issue number 8. It's the finale of this 8-issue series from Image. Griffin Sheridan, Ethan S. Parker, John J. Hill, Robert Quinn, all worked on this book. Absolutely fantastic. I've been raving about it for a long time now, the last 8 months. Every issue's come
I
out.
need to read it.
It's great. It's Rose, and it's like this fantasy horror, and she's got this imaginary world, but there's like this witch that plays into it. I don't want to give too much away. The ending did not go where I thought it was going to go initially, and so they kind of like swerved, but in a really good way. I like the ending that they chose for this, and it's a very emotional ending as well. I highly, highly recommend you guys pick this up. The artwork is really incredible, very colorful, very realistic style of art. The writing, like I said, it's very like a horror fantasy, but it's got a lot of lighthearted moments in it. So check that out. I read Batman Superman World's Finest issue 26 from DC Comics. And then I watched X-Men 97 this week, which my personal opinion on it, without too much spoilers, is we have this episode 5 that was very emotional, left us all like wrecked.
Yeah. Stunned.
And then I feel like they kind of just like let that momentum kind of falter in a little bit. Like they wrapped it together, at the very end of the episode, but they did some things that I was just, okay, they could have, I don't know.
We were all expecting like, okay, we need more. Like, what happened? Who exactly is still alive? Like, how is Rogue doing? And they're like, we're gonna go to space.
Yeah,
and
like we're gonna
deal with
go
Storm.
hang out with Storm and Professor Xavier, and we're not really gonna talk about the massive cliffhanger we were just left with. We're not gonna see how the X-Men react yet. I know they will next episode because they tie it in together at the end. But to me, it was just like, I don't care about what Professor Xavier is doing. I knew he wasn't dead yet. Spoilers.
Right. We all knew he wasn't dead. No, even at the end of the 92 show, like they literally showed him like flying away.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
like, why are they mourning him? He's not dead.
Like, I knew he's not dead. And then he's off there getting married, and then his X-Men need him. Like, I don't care about him giving space people math lessons in school right now. I don't care about this. Where's Gambit? Yeah.
But
I did watch a movie. I went and saw Civil War, Alex Garland's latest release. A lot of people were not enjoying this movie because I think they're going in expecting a war movie. And that's not what this is, honestly. Like, there's no political commentary. There is some political commentary, but it's not like, I think people are expecting to choose sides. They were going to go in and this was going to play into like current American politics, like the left versus the right. And that's not the case. It's about journalists and just how, war journalism is, and the really gritty details about it all. Kirsten Dunst and her crew, they're getting the story no matter the cost. They don't choose sides. They're getting the story. They're headed to DC. They want to see the finale. The Western forces are moving in. They do hint kind of like why this war started. And it's because the president decided he was going to be a 3-term president. So he abolished that amendment. He attacked American citizens, and then he abolished the FBI. So they don't like outright spell why the Civil War started, but essentially, like, you catch on, it's because this president became very fascist. So you have the Texas and California kind of banded together and are now trying to kick this president out.
Wow, California and Texas are banding together. That's
Well, it makes sense. They're like the most pro-American kind of like states out there, right? Like all about
yeah.
that kind of stuff. And so this Nick Offerman played a really good president. He's in it for 5 minutes or so.
Oh,
And
Nick Offerman's the president. I love him.
Yeah.
He's an American senator in Good Omens, which I also was
he plays the
funny and-
politician very well, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
But
he's fantastic.
There, like, the whole movie makes you feel uneasy at the same time, and then you just have like this anxiety building up, even though they don't outright establish like all this whole political world building. But it's a very good movie, man. Like, the sound is excellent. Like, the sound, they capture the gunshots really well. There's some really tense moments when they're trying to get from point A to point B, because some of these people are just using the Civil War to kill like minorities, for example. Like, it's pretty jacked up. There's that whole scene that's been going around with Kirsten Dunst's husband, Jesse Plumman, if I pronounce his name right.
Always plays such like a creepy.
Yeah, he's so good. He's in it again for 5 minutes and he steals the movie without a doubt. So I very much recommend people watch this movie. It's good. It's not what you think. And then I watched a little TV show that maybe we'll give our non-spoiler thoughts, and maybe on Canteen Hour this week, we'll kind of talk about Fallout.
I like that idea.
I never really played the video game, surprisingly enough. As a big gamer that I am, I never really played the games, but this show is awesome, dude. Like, so good. What were your non-spoiler thoughts?
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fantastic take on a futuristic apocalypse world. And I really loved that the apocalypse basically happens in like the 50s. So that's, when America was supposed to be.
Yeah, but it was 2077 though, which is crazy. That's the timeline.
Yeah. But I love that the music and like some of the stuff though is still representative of that era. So like as soon as and like, you told me to watch it, and if 5 minutes in, I was in love with it the second it came on. And,
I knew you would like it too. That's why I was like, you got to watch this ASAP.
Yeah. So the music was so fun because I love seeing or hearing that kind of music in a world that it doesn't make sense. I thought this was, it took me a while to figure out who the ghoul was. I'm like, oh, it's the bad guy from Ant-Man. Like, it was taking me a while. I'm like, I know I've seen him before, and I feel like I haven't liked him in the past.
Yeah, you saw him in the opening bit of the episode.
Well, I liked him there, and I figured out right away that the ghoul was that guy. But I love all the connections and all the mystery, and like I wanted to know more, and so like I cannot wait for next season because I really loved how all of it was brought together. And again, I've never played the game, but I kind of wonder, and I feel like I should put this question on Instagram or something. After The Last of Us and Fallout, these are two amazing TV shows that are based on video games. So what other video games out there should be turned into TV shows? Like, because obviously this has been great storytelling for years in a niche that only video game players are getting to enjoy.
Well, I think the big thing with video game that we've kind of figured out the formula in a way, and it's like Resident Evil kept trying to make movies, and some of these other video games kept trying to make movies, and video games often have like these very long stories or short stories, but there's a lot of story within it in this world. And I feel like these video games turned into properties, like they work better as long form content, which is TV series, because then you don't feel like you have 2 hours constraint, like Doom. The Doom movie sucked way long ago with The Rock. And it's just like they kept trying to fail, and they failed and they failed. And like, this movie sucks. This video game movie sucks. Like Halo, the series, they, for example, like, not to trash one to build up another, but that series sucked, and it still continues to suck. And it's just like it's right here. That you don't need to do anything crazy. Like, it's right here. And I think that's what Fallout did really well. The Last of Us has done really well. And I think video games are finally starting to realize that, like, if I want to take these video games and turn them into something that we can actually live action watch, it's got to be a TV series in some regard. And so I am very excited for season 2. They already announced it, obviously, but I think, yeah, this week we'll do a Cantina hour discussing the Fallout series, or season 1, I should say, in its entirety, so we can actually talk. And if you've seen it, let us know what video game you want to see next. But aside from that, Lauren, what else have you been watching and reading?
So actually, right before I started Fallout, I watched Oppenheimer finally. So it was kind of funny to go from that to Fallout, from, like based on real life events of needing to hide into a bomb shelter, to a fictional world where they're playing on that. So it was fun to go from one to the other. Yeah, it was very interesting. I didn't know, like, I knew of Oppenheimer, and we even did an episode on it beforehand. And so, but I didn't know, I guess, how he was necessarily treated, and how he basically went from a scientist to a politician.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that either.
That was kind of interesting to see. I loved the nod with Albert Einstein, what Albert Einstein said to him. I mean, who knows how much of that is totally factual, but it was still very good. I enjoyed it. I don't know, though, that I could have sat through that whole movie and then sat through Barbie, because they're both very emotional.
You walk out with, like, going from one end of the spectrum of Oppenheimer being like, wow, nothing matters, we're all gonna die. Then you go to Barbie and you're like, everything matters, I'm my own person. And you have, like, your own existential crisis there. But again.
Yeah,
like, oh my God.
Because that was a bit of an emotional roller coaster for me, seeing Barbie in the theater, because it was very nostalgic. I grew up playing with Barbies, and obviously I am a woman in this world. And I was just like, America Ferrera's speech, I was like, holy fuck. But so I don't think I could have done Barbenheimer. So I'm glad that I spread them out. My comic book review this week was actually very perfectly timed, as yesterday for us was 420, was Quick Stops number 4. I did review the first 2 for this fall. It's now on volume 2. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, go get these comics. Volume 1 is just 4 independent stories that are all hilarious. Volume 2 is completely about the movie origin story. There's sex, there's murder, there's all sorts of weird stuff. Like, it's freaking Kevin Smith, hilarious. Man. Yeah. It takes you to a place you would not have expected, but then you're like, oh, it's Kevin Smith. Okay, this makes sense. But the last issue actually tied in. We saw Randall, we saw Elias, we saw Jay and Silent Bob. So because the first 3 issues, you don't see any of the core characters. You even saw Harley Quinn Smith, because she had a character in Clerks 3. So they did a good job of wrapping it all up. I really liked it. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, go get these comics. And I finished Dune. Watch the first 2 Dune movies, watch the 1984 Dune movie, and I will save all of that for next week, as when we do our Dune episode. I have so many comments and things, so that'll be next week.
I'm glad you finally watched it, so we can finally talk about it. I have to watch the 1984 one. I've watched it a long time ago, so I'll watch it before our episode, and I'll just leave that at that. So let's roll into some news. What kind of news you got for us this week?
So Paul Walter Hauser, he's from Cobra Kai. He was the adult that, like, joins the Cobra Kai. He will play Chris Farley in an upcoming biopic movie, which Josh Gad will actually be directing. I'm interested to see that. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but interesting.
I mean, I loved Chris Farley growing up. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Invincible season 3, of course, is coming back. Voice acting is already done. However, there's no date yet. And if anybody who watched season 2, you saw them literally have very meta jokes about creating animation. There was a whole scene at a Comic-Con that was quite hilarious. But he did say there should be less of a break between 2 and 3 than there was 1 and 2. James Gunn has posted that day 1 of season 2 of Peacemaker has begun filming. The picture was of him taken in Peacemaker's helmet. It was a selfie, and he used a merman emoji, which I have to assume that was a nod to the Barbie movie. But I got very excited seeing that. And my last piece of news is MCU's Blade will start filming this summer in Mexico.
I'll believe that when I actually see it. How many times have we been hearing Blade now? I don't know, man. We'll see.
It's happening.
Allegedly. Now. Well, in other news, Transformers and G.I. Joe, there's a crossover movie in development actively. They kind of teased it at the end of the last Transformers movie, of course. Steve Buscemi will be replacing somebody in season 2 of Wednesday. He's actually going to be the principal. If he's the new principal at the school, that's Steve Buscemi. I'm a big Steve Buscemi fan, man. I love him so much. I'm so excited for this.
The principal Brienne of Tar?
Yes.
Oh, I loved her. I mean, I only watched the first
she's no Steve Buscemi.
But I loved her.
You never finished the series?
I love Steve Buscemi too. No, because Brielle took off without me, and so I just gave up.
Oh, it was a good show. I liked it.
Well, she clearly liked it.
Transformers 1 will be coming to theaters this September. It will be animated. It's an origin story set on Cybertron. The focus will be the relationship between Megatron and Optimus. The voice actors include Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan Michael Key, John Hamm, Lawrence Fishburne, and Steve Buscemi. Yes.
He's like making a big comeback all of a sudden. I mean, not that he ever
did he
really
ever
went
go
anywhere.
away? Yeah, I was like, did he
No,
go
but I
anywhere?
feel like if he's in something that's not Adam Sandler, well, I guess he also did that Boardwalk show.
He's
for a
been on a bunch of
while.
stuff. He hasn't worked
Yeah.
with Adam Sandler, I feel like, in a long time.
His Hubie Halloween was probably the last one.
Oh yeah, you're right. He was in Hubie Halloween. That's true. So a little bit, but I saw the trailer for this. It's very Disney Junior feeling. I don't know how, like, this is very much a kid made for kids movie, and that's fine. I am totally good with that. I will probably still see it because my son and kids will want to watch it. I just don't think I'm the target audience for this, but that's not to say it's not going to be a good movie. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles rocked. That came out last summer, and I loved that. The tone just feels kind of weird, and it wasn't what I was expecting, and I didn't even realize this was coming out to begin with. They kind of just dropped the trailer and said, "Hey, we're here. Let's go."
Yeah,
But
it's a big cast.
it is like the cast is stacked, man, for sure. I'm going to see it. I'll keep an open mind. The tone so far for me is just like, we'll see. And then the making of X-Men 97 will be released on Disney Plus May 22nd. You know, they always do like some behind the scenes stuff there. So I'm really excited for that. And then Will Poulter will be in The Bear season 3. He was in the last season of The Bear. If you've been keeping up with it, very great show on Hulu. I absolutely love this show. And he'll be coming back, man. So it's really exciting. So anyways, let's now go into our main topic. Let's talk about Earth Day. Earth. Worry about the Earth. We'll be back in just a second to talk about the Earth. What's up? Welcome back, everybody. We have some fun facts on a few superheroes and potentially villains that have done good for the Earth, not just by saving it, but in an Earth Day recognition kind of way. Shout out to our Discord, by the way, where we got some of the suggestions of who to include. If you're not on our Discord, man, hop in there. We have such good conversations with everybody in there. It's like a family, and we get to just shoot the shit, and hang out, man. Have a good time. And we like to pop in there and be like, hey, who do you want to see? There's no stupid questions. We like to ask that. So that shout out to them for giving some of these. And now we have to start with the obvious planet-saving superhero. Lauren, who is that?
That is Captain Planet. Did you watch Captain Planet as a kid?
I didn't avidly watch it, but I've seen some episodes.
Same. But when I told Josh we were doing this, he's like, you have to include Captain Planet. It's always funny, some of the stuff he knows from, like, you know, the geeky 80s, 90s stuff that I don't.
Yeah.
So Captain Planet had 2 TV runs, both in the 90s. The original series was the second longest running US cartoon of the 90s, producing 113 episodes. And it went on for 3 seasons under the name Captain Planet and the Planeteers. This is the opening narration, which basically sums up the show, so I couldn't have summed it up any better. So, our world is in peril. Gaia, the spirit of the earth, can no longer stand the terrible destruction plaguing our planet. She sends 5 magic rings to 5 special young people. Kwame from Africa with the power of earth. From North America, Wheeler with the power of fire. From Eastern Europe, Linka with the power of wind. From Asia, Gi with the power of water, and from South America, Mati with the power of heart. When the 5 powers combine, they summon Earth's greatest champion, Captain Planet. Go, Planet, the power is yours.
Interesting.
So the episode, you can tell I actually have not listened to this in years because I probably would have had more of like a, you know, some little oomph behind it. The episode would end with at least one Planeteer alert clip, often connected to the plot. Environmental, social, political issues would actually be discussed, and viewers could learn how to help and contribute at home, which that's kind of cool, but I could also see how that could unreasonably become controversial. A lot of the characters were actually based on real people and real events that impacted the environment in both good and bad ways. So I'm sure that was a little bit controversial. If you're like, hey, I see myself in that villain. Quite a lot of big names did voices, though. These are just a few of them that I was, surprised, because I felt, well, I guess once Robin Williams did Aladdin, I feel like that's when a lot of big celebrities started doing voices.
Yeah.
But you got Whoopi Goldberg, Jeff Bloom, LeVar Burton, Ham from Toy Story, Al from Quantum Leap, who was actually in Dune 84, which took me by surprise there, Ed Asner, Meg Ryan, and more.
Okay, but like, didn't Don Cheadle play the real life version of Captain Planet at one point?
Oh my God, I think he did.
Yeah, there's a version of Don Cheadle out there that was Captain Planet in his like creepy makeup. It's so asinine looking and ridiculous.
I totally forgot about that, and as soon as you said it, I'm like, I feel like I can picture this.
He definitely. Oh
my God, it's terrifying. Yes,
it's all. He's got the green like mullet wig going on. He's got the blue face paint and everything. Like it's the most B looking like actual costume. It's so bad. It's so
Oh, it was
bad
a
looking.
short in 2011. So this
Wow. Oh
wasn't
yeah,
even that
Don
long
Cheadle
ago.
is Captain Planet from 2011. Lumberjacks are cutting down trees, but with 5 powerful rings, Captain Planet is summoned to help plant more trees, but then he goes mad insane. It's got a 7.4 to 10 on IMDb. What?
Why did we not watch this before recording
I
this?
I somehow wiped this from my memory. There's more. There's Captain Planet 2, Captain Planet 3, Captain Planet 4. There's like a series of
Oh my
shorts
gosh.
with
What were
Don
they?
Cheadle.
Oh, it's on Funny or Die. Okay, so these are on YouTube.
Oh, wow. All right. We're going to have to.
That might
Oh,
have to be
yeah.
its own special, maybe a
Oh,
Cantina Hour.
God. But yeah, I thought
Oh,
I remembered that and I wiped it from my memory because of how terrifying he looks. And this was like Iron Man Avengers time. So it's not like,
yeah,
oh
that's what I was
no.
just thinking. Yeah, this is like after Iron Man 2.
Oh no.
Wow. Okay, so that'll be a future. I'm gonna write that down. So my last bit of information on Captain Planet, the cartoon, not the amazing Don Cheadle special. So what happened in real life with the show and its impact today? So Captain America Planet Foundation was founded in 1991 when the series producer Barbara Pyle negotiated a percentage of the show's merchandising revenue to empower young people. The concept allowed schools and organizations around the world to present their actual environmental projects to the foundation, and they got to receive seed money to grow their own ideas, which is, kind of like Iron Man at MIT. In 2001, now Iron Man's just in my head, Time Warner decided to shut down the organization due to a challenging merger with AOL. Is AOL still a thing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think so. No, are they? I don't think so.
I
America
forgot.
Online.
They stopped sending me CDs years ago.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, boop.
Do you remember they would send like the CDs for like 50 hours? You might be
Yeah,
too
they
young.
would.
Okay.
No, they would. Yeah.
I used to do like projects with them and make like things that I would hang in my room and like, because they would send so many.
Yeah, they would.
Okay, so Laura Seidel and her husband, Rutherford Seidel, worked with Time Warner and they actually handled the transition of the corporate foundation to a public charity called the Captain Planet Foundation. This was in 2007, and they actually acquired the rights to exhibit previous episodes of Captain Planet and the Planeteers online and on air. Therefore, they were allowed this valuable resource to reach out and educate children of today. As of 2017, the organization's board is chaired by Laura Seidel, the daughter of Ted Turner. The board includes Barbara Pyle. So those people are now. So I guess it's still around.
Guess it is. All right.
There you go.
Let's go into a villain. Let's switch gears a little bit and go to Poison Ivy. She first showed up in 1966 in Batman issue number 181. She was a genius botanist named Pamela Isley who absorbed an exotic poison herb, but instead of killing her, it made her immune to poisons. After Crisis on Infinite Earths, she actually becomes an eco-terrorist and favors plants over humans. Honestly, though, like I don't really see how this is bad. She wants to save the earth. Like she's mad that's her whole thing is like they're destroying the earth, they're destroying her plants. Sure, she gets a little carried away
She's sick of it.
sometimes. Well, I mean, to be fair, like yeah.
What's with DC taking these super intelligent scientist women and then turning them evil?
Are we supposed to be against her? Because number one, she is fine. Number two, like she's trying to save the earth. So I don't know. Her powers include power also allows her to secrete poisons, which she uses to control men. However, her ultimate goal is to fuck Batman.
Yeah. She's always
All right.
trying to fuck Batman.
Dude, Bruce. I fail to see how this is.
She didn't say fuck Batman. She wanted to seduce Batman. She even does it in the movie. She's constantly trying to sleep with him.
All right. Like, first
She
and
wants them to be a
foremost,
power couple.
Uma Thurman in that movie, like legit. Yes, would in a heartbeat. I don't care.
Would.
Just wear the rubber lips like Robin did. Okay, rubber lips. And they peel them off. It's so awful, cheesy, and like the fact that that's the only basically movie version of Poison Ivy that we've ever gotten is kind of a tragedy in its own right.
Yeah, we need a good dark Poison Ivy.
That's just like with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the whole time that we've ever really gotten Mr. Freeze in live action is that awful. It's not awful because I love those movies, but
he was in I don't know if it was Gotham or Flash. I didn't hate his portrayal, the CW version. I didn't hate his portrayal of Gotham.
I never watched those.
Which one was he? I don't remember what he was on. It might have been Gotham. But no, it was a tragic story, obviously. He's trying to save the love of his life.
Now, the Floronic Man became an actual plant and contributed to the creation of poison ivy. In 1999, the federal government famously cut Gotham off from the world in a massive storyline called No Man's Land, leading to the city to become a post apocalyptic war zone. Ivy kept the local part clean. She helped Batman in keeping that way, and she created a little utopia there while the rest of Gotham just absolutely devolved into chaos. Again, she's a villain because maybe she goes about it kind of the wrong way, but at the same time, like, I don't,
She just needs
she's
better
all about,
marketing.
like, yeah, she definitely needs a PR campaign, a better manager there, but I like her. She's all about the earth, man, and the plants and preserving the way of life. And I know there's points where she goes against Bruce Wayne because he kind of like cuts off funding to certain things. And some of these people try to like cut down forest. And so she goes after them.
I
What
mean,
is
yeah.
wrong with sending her after these big corporations that are continuously ruining the earth? I fail to see how this is a bad thing.
I feel like in DC and other things, not so much Marvel, I think the distinction between villain and hero comes down to whether you're willing to murder the bad guy, which
Which,
kind of seems silly to me. It's like season 1
yeah.
of Supernatural where they evolve and then they just straight up fucking murder terrible people because they're monsters too.
Well, I guess that's why I've always kind of liked DC is because they blur the lines a lot. I mean, some of these people are very sympathetic villains. You're supposed to at sometimes root for them. You're supposed to not root for them at other times. You're supposed to also like hate the heroes at times because dude, like
Where nobody's
you're trying
perfect.
to throw her in jail. She's trying to and nobody's perfect. And that's why I like DC. But that's what I have for Poison Ivy. Who's next?
So next we have Squirrel Girl, which I really don't know much about her. She was in the recent Women of Marvel for International Women's Month this past month, so I got to learn a tiny bit of her. So she her first appearance was in Marvel Superheroes Volume 2 number 8 in the winter of 91. So she's older than I actually thought she was. She has
Oh,
squirrel-like characteristics and can communicate with them and uses them kind of like in an Ant-Man kind of way. She did save the Earth, but not in a pro-environment way, but she did convince Galactus to not eat Earth, instead of eat a planet without sentient life but filled with nuts. The only reason I included her was because I think she was recommended in the Discord, but I couldn't really find anything. And if anybody has, like, let me know. I couldn't find anything that was she's connected to the Earth, and that, she's connected to squirrels and she can,
right.
have this like telepathic connection with them. But I didn't find anything that was like
Uh,
pro-environmental.
we were supposed to have gotten a live action version of her a long time ago. Milana Vaintrub, the girl from the ATT commercials, was supposed to play her. They shot like a pilot and everything, but it never actually released.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
that's a
honestly like,
shame.
yeah, why not have Squirrel? I think we should lean into some of these more random things like Squirrel Girl. I've always really liked. Her comics have been fun and goofy. It's like Ant-Man. You're not supposed to take some of these guys seriously.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know she's in the cartoon one that had like Quake and everything. I believe she has
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
I never watched any of that though. I tried to get Brielle to, and Brielle just likes getting the toys. She doesn't want to watch any of the stuff. The
that's
girl's
fair.
room is covered in Marvel and Star Wars, and she refuses to watch anything Star Wars.
Does she even read any of the comics or anything? She just straight up likes
Nope.
this stuff?
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah,
All
she's
right.
weird.
Look, everybody has their own thing. I don't know.
She's a poser. She saw my Green Day shirt. I go, name 2 songs. She couldn't name one. I'm like, I called her a poser.
Wow. Wow. You know what? She is not invited into the emo club. I'm sorry. Revoked. I'm gonna let you take this next one.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you could take Storm. So my next one's Adam Eve from Invincible by Robert Kirkman. If you're only familiar with the show, they did do a little bit in the show, but her power is she can sense and manipulate matter and energy at the subatomic level by sheer willpower. Like she can just be like, I want to wear these clothes, and she can create those clothes. I want to eat an apple, and she can create an apple. So
Oh.
organic and inorganic matter can be changed into anything she desires. So she actually shows the desire to want to feed and fix the world in the show and in the comic. And actually, in episode 6 of the show in season 1, you see her stop a forest fire and then immediately replant what was destroyed. You also see her grow a vineyard after reading about the fire and a drought occurring. So she's like on the news and she sees these things, and then she goes and, helps out with the drought and helps out with the fire. And like she even at one point, she's like, well, I can, stop world hunger and I can do these things. And of course, having to always save the world in these catastrophes kind of holds her back from that. But she even like has her own tree house that she like flies off to that she created. Like when her parents are struggling for money, she's like, well, I can just create groceries. But of course, her asshole of a father is like, no, I provide for the family. He's an ass. But I absolutely love her. She's so fantastic. She's such a perfect example of a badass, emotionally intelligent female superhero. There's no gimmicks. There's no like about her. Like there's no
What was
like
that
her
noise?
getting.
That ah!
Well, I just watched Dune 1984 last night, and here's a little note real quick. So the Ben Gesserit are supposed to be very intelligent, very
Yes.
non-emotional. It's like that in the book. It's like that in the new movies. The Jessica in the 1984 one, I feel like she's constantly crying and being like, "Oh, my Leto is dead," and it's like, what is happening? So you get none of that nonsense. I feel like that only happens when. I mean, this could be bullshit, and I know this isn't always true, but I feel like that only happens when men write female characters they don't understand. So Eve is absolutely fantastic. She's never unreasonably mad at Mark. Like they have very intelligent conversations. She's very understanding, but she doesn't hide her emotions. She's still very honest about who she is and how she feels. And she just wants to save the world. And I fucking love her so much.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's what I got. She's my number one.
That's fair. Well, let's go into a nice X-Men, if you will. Storm, also known as Aurora Monroe. She first debuted in Giant Size X-Men #1, May of 1975. She was a tribal princess of Kenya and an African-American photojournalist. Born to a tribal princess of Kenya and an African-American photojournalist father, Storm was raised in Harlem, New York City, and Cairo, Egypt. She was actually made an orphan after her parents were killed in the midst of an Arab-Israeli conflict. And it left her with like claustrophobia, all that stuff. She's a member of the X-Men, a group of mutant heroes fighting for peace and equal rights. Now, her powers are just absolutely insane. Of course, we know that she controls the weather. She's one of the most powerful mutants on Earth. She's demonstrated this multiple times. She's messed around with the weather. She has magical potential. She's very good at combat, physical abilities, all that good stuff. And now we aren't going to dedicate an entire episode on her. So let's just kind of talk about some things that she has done using her powers for the good of the environment. So in the Serengeti, Aurora first displayed her powers and then met a witch priestess, Annette, who took her in and became her surrogate mother. Once, when their village was going through a terrible drought, Storm commanded rain for days just to help them. This led the people in the area to think she was a goddess. Unfortunately, she threw off the natural order of nature, and droughts were formed over many villages, and hundreds of animals were killed. Annette sensed this and confronted Storm, which then explains the unintended consequences as well as how to fix the issue by properly distributing rain. So basically, she can only redistribute what's there, while Thor is magical.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Thor is magical and can create rain and thunder. She has the power of the weather. We see this multiple times in all sorts of media. She can create the wind and the tornadoes and the thunderstorms and all that kind of stuff. But just because you can, you still got to understand the order of things. So yeah.
You want to take Swamp Thing?
Did
you watch the show?
I did watch the show. The show was very good, actually. I'm disappointed that it was canceled after one season. I guess apparently they filmed in like North Carolina and it cost a lot more than they intended. And there's a whole bunch of things. But it was really good. Like the costume for Swamp Thing, they did a fantastic job. It was awesome. So DC's description: in a secret facility located in the Louisiana swamplands, scientist Alec Holland and his wife Linda invented a biorestorative formula that would solve any nation's food shortage problems. Ferret and Bruno, who were thugs working for Nathan Ellery, barged into Alec's lab, knocked him out, planted a bomb in the facility, and when Alec woke up just as the bomb exploded and in flames, he ran into the swamp. His body had been drenched in the biorestorative formula, and this affected the plant life of the swamp, imbuing it with Alec's consciousness and memories. The newly conscious plant life formed a semblance of a human form, rose up from the bog as Swamp Thing, the latest in a long line of earth elementals created when the green was in need of protection. The Swamp Thing originally thought he had been Alec Holland, transformed by the freak accident into a monster. He sought to regain his human body, but often met opposition in the form of Anton, Arcane, and his ever-growing legion of unmen. The first appearance for DC's Swamp Thing was in 1972. However, he first showed up in 1971's House of Secrets, number 92, where he was depicted as an early 20th century man who was murdered by a jealous rival and came back as a plant monster to defend his wife. The character was given his own series the following year, and creators Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson reworked the concept to fit a more contemporary setting, but the basics remained pretty much the same. Hence, Alec Holland was born in 1972's Swamp Thing #1. Swamp Thing, however, may not actually be Alec. He struggles with whether he is or not, and if Alec died that day and this plant creature was formed and got some of his memories. Now, John Constantine also got his start in his Swamp Thing story.
I
I
thought that
love
was
Swamp
fun.
Thing. Well, Swamp Thing deals a lot with DC Dark. So, Justice League Dark, all that kind of stuff, because Swamp Thing, he's depicted like largely he's for good, but there are times when like the Justice League fights him because he's all about like if you mess with the earth in any kind of way, like he doesn't jive with that, man. Like, nor should
There
he.
you
He's all
go.
about earth conservation, kind of like Poison Ivy. It's interesting that she's seen as a bad guy, but Swamp Thing's seen more as a good guy, but he's kind of like a chaotic neutral in that he's just here to wreck anything. But more often than not, yes, he does team up with Justice League Dark. So John Constantine, like all the magical, like Zatanna, like all those
Mhm.
magical creatures and beings, they kind of have their own Justice League. And that's kind of where you see a lot of Swamp Thing stories. The show is really good. I highly recommend you watch the show because it's like 10 episodes or something like that. Maybe it's a little more, but they did a really good job. I thought the costumes were great. The special effects were great. It never at any point felt like a drug, and it had that
Right.
drama or whatever. And I really, really would like to see a Swamp Thing in live action because I think he's so awesome. And I love his comics. There's a lot of really good Swamp Thing comics out there where he's fighting, just trying to better the earth, man. And that's who he is. So that's Swamp
Yeah.
Thing.
Well, I know I would love them to do a new movie as well because I know they did one. Because I had looked this up because I remembered my brother had a Swamp Thing toy because he used to
Yeah.
think Swamp Thing, you make my heart sing. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, there was a movie in like the late '80s, early '90s. So it's interesting the stories or the characters they did movies on back in the day that they kind of stopped. But I am gonna watch that. I enjoyed Stargirl. I was late to the party on that one
Yeah.
and I really liked it. So next up, we have Animal Man, aka Bernard Buddy Baker. So this is the DC description. Buddy Baker is the Animal Man, the chosen protector of the red, the force which connects all animal life. He is both a family man and a superhero, often struggling to keep the balance between two. I mean, who isn't? So his first appearance is in DC's Strange Adventures number 180. That was in September of 65. He has the ability to borrow animal traits. He can fly like a bird or swim like a fish. He got these powers when he encountered a spaceship that blew up, infusing him with radiation. He has appeared in comics all over the place: Wonder Woman, Crisis, Justice League, Europe, etc. And he has had his own runs as well. So in the late 80s, Animal Man was reimagined by Scottish writer Grant Morrison, who was a big fan of vegetarianism and animal rights. At one point, Baker worked at Star Labs investigating a break-in at an animal testing facility. He traces it to Botswana Beast, whom he then befriends, and he actually helps him. The conditions he witnessed at the testing facility turned him actually into a vegetarian.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
I mean, I could see that. You see, like some of those things. Oy. So Baker also becomes a staunch animal rights activist, and he goes on several missions with environmental themes. There is an issue where Buddy helps a band of self-described eco-terrorists save a pod of dolphins. Enraged at a fisherman's brutality, Buddy drops him into the ocean, intending for him to drown. Ironically, though, the man is saved by the dolphin. He gets on some people's shit list big time because of his work with environmental causes, especially when firefighters were injured putting out a fire started by activists.
Hmm.
Uh, this one's not environmental related, but I thought this was kind of cool because I didn't know anything about him. And now I'm kind of like, oh, I want to
Yeah,
read
I
some of his
don't. I'm not too
comics.
familiar with him at all either myself.
So I actually had Googled it and I came across an article from NTV that was like 5
Whoa.
characters to check out on Earth Day. And this was one of them that I was surprised at. And then I think it might have been DT or somebody in the Discord recommended him as well. So he breaks the fourth wall. So
Oh.
he even meets Grant Morrison, his writer. After tragedy after tragedy, he has the chance to confront Grant Morrison and ask, like, why are you doing this to me? Um, and which is kind of funny too, and I can't explain why, but I will explain. There's some other stuff in this other show that you might be watching that you'll get to. So he was also a stuntman at one point. I guess he hung up the superhero act. Animal Man appears in a self-titled segment of DC Nation shorts voiced by Weird Al Yankovic.
That's
Just
so
keeps
random.
getting more and more interesting. This version focuses on rescuing animals instead of people. And I think that he needs to be in James Gunn's DCU
I
because he
would love,
sounds really cool.
yeah. I'm not too familiar with Animal Man, but I would be all about catch. Yeah, I kind of want to learn more now. Interesting. Our last one is Freedom Beast, another character who I'm not too familiar with, whose first appearance was actually in DC's Animal Man number 13 in July of 1989. Freedom Beast was born Dominic Mendawi in South Africa. His powers include super strength, healing factor, and animal control and fusion. Animal Man and Dominic team up once again during the Day of Judgment incident, protecting African wildlife from the murderous intentions of demon invaders. You know what? Good for them because like Africa is known for a lot of poachers and a lot of people that go over there. So we need some more like people holding it down in Africa and battling against killing things like rhinos and elephants for sport. So that's how I
I
feel about
agree.
that. And then lastly, shout out to Thanos for bringing the whales back to the harbor. Shout out to Rocket who planted a tree, saved the galaxy. All right. That's how we, Lauren stole that from a
Saw
shirt she saw with
yeah.
Baby Groot.
Yep.
So
Save the tree.
go.
Or what is it? Plant a tree, save the galaxy.
That's true. So all in all, that was kind of our Earth Day episode. There's a lot of characters we could have included. That was just kind of like a brief synopsis, right? And basically, man, Earth is important. Climate change is a real thing, and you see it with the weather. You see it with less snow. People are like, "Why is it not snowing? Why is it raining? Why is it warm? Why is it this? Why are the water temperatures?" And so there's some things that we can do in our everyday lives. Take this how you will, but we can go plant things like a garden. I've got my own garden kind of growing.
Go to
You
a
can plant,
native nursery.
yeah, go to a native plant nursery, plant a tree. I always like to plant some flowers because there's honeybees that are very crucial to the environment. They like to pollinate. We have our own garden. We have our own bushes. The trees, don't cut down trees, man, especially in the Amazon rainforest. We
Come
need
on, the
those.
Lorax told you.
Exactly. And I speak for the trees, if you will.
Compost if you can. I know not everybody can.
Recycle if you can. Like I know, like recycle. Don't use straws. I've cut out some straws. Reusable straws are another kind of way. Like I know a lot of people think, oh, these hippie things, but man, we've got one Earth to live
I
on.
mean,
Let's
paper
make it the
straws are
best.
terrible, but yeah.
I don't like paper straw. I just like I'm glad like places like Starbucks and stuff, they give you the option. It's like the open lid to where you can just drink your stuff now. I don't have to mess with a straw. So
Yeah.
that's what
Well,
I do.
I like brought a reusable cup to use at Starbucks the other day, and then I left it in the car. But I remember in March 2020 bringing my cup, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing that anymore." So I'm assuming that they got to be doing that again
I would hope
because
so.
like they used to give you like it's small discount, maybe 10% off. Which actually, I guess it's a bigger discount now since a tall latte is $6.
Yeah.
But you used to get a discount for bringing your reusable cup into Starbucks. So hopefully that's been brought back. But I haven't heard anything since 2020. I need to
Well,
find out.
the last thing we could all do is commit an act of eco-terrorism. Blow up these corporations, blow up those tree cutters in the
These are the
Amazon
jokes,
rainforest.
kid.
Let's
As
go.
your attorney, I
No
advise
jokes.
to remind
We're
people.
blowing up. We're
these are the
committing
jokes.
eco-terrorism. We're going to go blow up those wood chippers in the Amazon. We're going to go blow up all these factories. Stop destroying my farmlands. Down with the corporations. Fuck the man. Anyways.
Fuck the man. And go
Do you have
watch
any-
Don Cheadle as Captain Planet.
Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
To quote The Alchemist, and you already said this, but The Alchemist, the brewery, says, "Don't be a douchebag, recycle."
Yeah, just don't be you know what? Everything in life could be attributed to this one simple trick, kids. Don't be a dick. Make a better world for our kids, right? So thanks for hanging out with us. We have some really cool things coming up this week. We have Kyle Starks to talk Karate Prom. That will be releasing later this week. We are going to be sitting down on a live Cantina hour to talk about Fallout, perhaps. And the only way that you will make sure that you get the notifications if you hit subscribe on YouTube, if you hit subscribe on whatever podcasting platform, go ahead, follow us on social media. And that's where you can find out everything and anything. And looks like maybe in a month or so, Lauren and I might be getting together for some beers potentially as well. That's coming down the pipe. Star Wars month is upon us. Next week, we'll be talking.
I'm excited to get ready for that.
Yes. And then Star Wars month, baby. Star Wars month is a big one. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you guys next time. Cheers.